Hello and welcome to Chicago Reacts. My name is Lauren and today I am going to be looking at a firearms expert reacting to the guns of Bioshock 1 and 2. I have just finished playing Bioshock, the first one. I have not yet started the second, but it is on my list. I am planning to start streaming that. So, if you've seen any of the my Bioshock playthrough, you know that I was very into the machine gun. But I got some use out of some of the other guns as well, especially towards the end. I figured out the chemical thrower a little bit better, and I figured out the crossbow, which turned out to be amazing once I figured it out. But this is going to be the guns. So we're going to be looking at, I'm assuming, like the pistol and like the machine gun, and just a couple of those that maybe I didn't use quite as much. But I'm excited to get into what he really thinks of the guns. I imagine we're going to look at some of the upgrades that you can do and how would this actually work, and in real life, could you mod it like this? So I'm really excited to get into this. If you want to see more stuff like this, make sure you let me know by leaving a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. That helps as well. You can also suggest specific things by leaving it in the comments below, or becoming a patron are the best ways to let us know what you want us to watch. So without any further ado, let us get into learning about the guns of Bioshock.
Ferguson, the keeper of firearms and artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. And
Cool.
This week we've got a double feature for you as we take a pleasant dive down to the iconic vistas of Rapture in Bioshock 1 and 2.
Don't try this at home, kids. Definitely don't try it at home. Don't try it underwater either.
Let us know what other games or guns you'd like to see Jonathan break down, and be sure to subscribe for more Firearms Expert Reacts, as we'll be covering Bioshock Infinite, as well as new videos coming soon covering the saber duels of Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and much, much more. Right, over to Jonathan.
A Rapture reminder. The bottom of the ocean is our home. Also, a dangerous place. Any leak is a bad one.
Right, this revolver is pretty clearly based on the Webley series. It's the size and proportions of the Mark VI. It's not quite right though. The recoil shield at the rear of the cylinder is too enclosing, if that makes sense, and that is
Nope.
directly in your field of view from the first person view, whereas from the side it looks a pretty good approximation of a Webley. Of course, this is not, I don't think, our universe, if I remember rightly, and so we have a lot of license there for things looking different anyway. So I've taken some license, and the example I've grabbed from the collection is not in fact a Webley Mark VI at all. It isn't even the side stirrup latch system at all. This is the Webley Price system, which is a pinch to break. So it's still break open, and the reason I've shown it to you is it kind of belongs in a video game. So although the revolver in this game is actually very plain, this is beautifully sort of blued and
That is
it's
lovely.
almost black mirror finish.
I think when you start upgrading that revolver, though, it starts looking a little fancier.
And then gold decoration all over.
It is
It's
pretty.
just
That is a pretty gun.
beautiful, I think. I know it's not steampunk, but the word steampunk is still inevitably springs to mind looking at that kind of thing. I don't know if it's the decoration or the slightly antiquated look of the thing, but it almost looks like it might be firing something other than just ordinary bullets, even though it doesn't.
Yeah, that's the upgraded one.
Trouble with revolvers in video games, if you want an upgrade system, how do you increase the size of say a 6-shot cylinder? Well, you can't. There's nothing you can do about it. You've kind of got to build in a revolver design that allows you to fit a bigger cylinder if you want to do it realistically, or maybe like the chain pistol, something where you can bolt on capacity. And bolt on capacity is what they've done, but they've done it in a way that I can't think of a way of it working. One way you could make it work is like the revolver feed on the original Dushka machine gun, recent Forgotten Weapons video. On that one we have one as well. So you have a revolver feed but a belt going into it. That would be one way to do it. Here it really just doesn't make any sense. It's kind of just fudged on.
That's a pity. I was really hoping that was like a cool thing, and that this is the. But I was really hoping that would actually work. I hope that some of these upgrades that he's going to tell us about would actually be feasible. I mean, obviously, in a situation like Jack finds himself in Rapture, he would not be able to do those kinds of modifications in all likelihood. But it's cool. It would be cool if they would be able to be accomplished by someone who knew what they were talking about. Now we're going to look at my machine gun. I love the hell out of this machine gun in that game. That's because I'm terrible and I can't aim. So the machine gun, it'll get them eventually. So it's like the pistol I always had some issues with because I was just like, I'm not aiming well with it at all. The reticle always is not where I think it is. I tend to look more at where the gun is being pointed as opposed to where the reticle is. And so it just becomes a huge issue for me. But this is my lovely machine gun. I'm excited to see how well it does.
So this is a hyper stylized Thompson submachine gun, stylized to the point that it doesn't really, in detail, look anything like a Thompson. This is a model 1928 with a drum from one of our model 1921s. Just for effect. You may have glimpsed this in a recent thumbnail. I went with the 28 because our 21s don't have cuts compensators, and this game model is trying to represent the cuts compensator on the end to try to control recoil. The general silhouette is about right, and that's all most people are going to care about. All the detail is incorrect. The cocking handle is on the side, more like an M1, but it does still have a slot in the top, nonetheless, which is interesting. And actually the drum on this gun is clearly meant to be the 50.
I don't know what that means, to have, like, you've got the slot on the top and the cocking thing on the side. Like, what is the thing on one of them just for aesthetic then? Or is the slide on the top also a way to cock the weapon? Like, what is it? I know nothing about guns, like, at all. So, like, if someone would like to let me know the difference between those two things, or like, why would it be good or bad to have both? Let me know.
Rounder because it's substantially smaller than this dinner plate in front of me. Oh, the rear sights on this thing are a bit of a weird extrapolation, I suppose, of what's on the real gun, which with the Model 21, Model 28, you have these big steel protectors, that's correct, although they're a bit too beefy on the model. And then there is when folded flat, there's a not very good little combat notch there. Not great for a submachine gun by any means. That's because you flip up the whole thing and you have a highly adjustable, very long range rear sight there. Adjustable out to 600 yards.
Wow.
But in any case, I think you'd want to flip it up on its minimum setting and use that aperture there for aiming. So the sight on the real gun is also not great, not when folded flat. But it doesn't look like the one in the game with that weird spindly rear notch that's right at the rear of the protectors.
Good to know.
We have cocking handle slots on both sides, cocking handles on both sides. Cartridge cases are ejecting from the left of the gun, kind of irrespective of where the cocking handle is. When the thing's cocked, it's to the rear, which it ought to be on an open bolt gun. But then when you attach the magazine, the bolt closes itself. It's all very fudged. I know the Bioshock games are so good and well loved. I feel bad criticizing their guns, but they are not very realistic.
Well, there's okay, look, if people are going to get mad that he's going to criticize the guns in the Bioshock game, they need to really, it's like, dude, of course they're not going to be perfect. And like, they're going to be a little bit weird and fudged. Like, this is a game where you can inject yourself with random vials of this very untested substance and give yourself superpowers. Like, come on. Like, the guns are going to be a little bit not fully accurate to history.
Yeah, from what I've seen so far.
Yeah.
So I actually think this sort of pimped version of the Thompson gun is more like it, strangely, because of the setting of the game, the sort of diesel punk shenanigans. When the gun's all tricked out with the glowing bits and the cables and the extra gubbins, it sort of rounds out the design and it looks better. I wonder if it was designed as a sort of modified concept gun first and then retrofitted to a bare gun, if you see what I mean.
That's an
Because
interesting
that would
thought.
explain why it's so skinny and odd looking when it doesn't have its attachments. That's just speculation on my part. But if you took a normal 28 model Thompson and then attached all of this to it, it would be hugely bulky and it might look a bit weird on screen. So that would be one reason why they've taken artistic license with the base Thompson gun.
Cool. Lovely shotgun. Oh, you know what I was thinking? I was thinking he was talking about the pistol in the game being kind of plain. I think I was thinking about the shotgun that did have the detailing on the side. See? That's beautiful.
Hey, this is very cool, actually. This is the Spencer Roper system shotgun. You can, although some other early pump action guns have a dinky little pump grip like this as well. But if you see that and two massive action bars, and especially the way they connect to the frame here with this rounded shape here, and then this distinctive bolt on the top that drops down.
Oh,
you're looking at a Spencer. So
cool.
This is the model 1882. So it's a great choice for a retro-looking pump action. Of course, we then massively trick it out for the game with some modifications that don't necessarily make logical sense, but that's fine. This is a fantasy game above all else. We've got electric ammunition, seen that in other games as well, of course, delivering a different form of damage or enhancing the damage somehow with electricity. And then the modified version I've just been looking at with, there was a joke in the steampunk community about gluing some gears on it and calling it steampunk. Well,
yeah.
That's almost, we've stuck some cogs in it and called it diesel punk. I think the cogs are meant to somehow enhance the rate of fire. How they would do that? Well, they wouldn't, would they? Exposed gear wheels embedded in the action of your shotgun means that something is going to stop working in your shotgun. But it does look quite cool as an upgrade.
Grenade launcher. Boom. Oh my god, that's a hilarious use of the grenade launcher. Just for a single splicer.
Right, this is an interesting...
I think I definitely killed a splicer or two with the grenade launcher by accident because I misjudged like what the shortcut was when I was trying to change guns, and I definitely got one or two with I tried to use that mostly for the big daddies only.
This is a grenade launcher, obviously, some sort of belt or multi-shot feed device on the side, and it's not exactly homemade, but it is what we would call craft produced, i.e. produced in a workshop or a very small factory, perhaps using some improvised components. This notably
I love that. Craft produced. It is like the most politely passive aggressive judgment. It's craft produced, this machine, this thing.
A receiver, I think it is, that is labeled condensed milk. So it's been made from tins of something. Oddly substantial tins of something, I will say, because there's no way a tin can is going to contain the pressure of firing any kind of projectile. So no, don't try this at home, kids. Definitely don't try it at home.
Also, I'm a little salty about how well that worked for him, putting those those sticky grenades out, because I tried that and they all managed to just land basically in the water. I was so furious.
Don't try it underwater either. But it's a very cool concept for a weapon, I think. I'm a bit confused by the reload on this, where we're twisting the whole weapon apart and then attaching it, and that is feeding in new rounds. The feed device would seem to be separate from the receiver, from the barrel unit. It's not clear how that actually attaches together or how it relates to the magazine/feed system. So I think it's another fudged design, but it looks coherent and it seems like it might work if you don't look too closely, which is all you need.
Yeah. Usually you don't have time to look that closely. Okay, let me just say, I didn't discover that the electric gel was incredibly effective on Big Daddies until the last 3 Big Daddies in the game. I was furious.
This is quite an unusual flamethrower, except that it does other effects as well, delivers other effects as
Chemical
well.
and
Flamethrower mode
ice.
is, well, I wouldn't say typical, because it does have a different sort of flavor to it, if I can put it that way. Then we have liquid nitrogen doing the same thing from the same gun, only it's ammunition dependent as to whether it's flame or ice. Of course, living things would suffer pretty badly from being frozen solid, but we don't worry about that in this case.
No, they're splicers. Like, you know, nothing matters.
As if 2 types of throwing wasn't enough, there's also an electric gel attachment as well, so that's essentially turning it into a sort of cattle prod. So it's 3 weapons in one. I don't remember seeing anything quite like this before. Like a lot of the other weapons in the game, looks good, feels good. Not sure it stands up to too much scrutiny. We're attaching our fuel of whatever type to the side with a valve. That doesn't seem to then get closed to attach it, so that seems to be slightly glossed over. Now, again, it makes sort of intuitive sense that you're attaching something, you're slapping something, then it works. It's just that if you think about it, it doesn't seem to make too much sense.
Damn, thinking about stuff. All right, so now we're in Bioshock 2, which means I will have no idea about any of this anymore. So we're about to get into spoiler territory for me, but this could be fun for me to, like, once I start playing that game, to be able to, like, be like, oh, I recognize this and this is why it doesn't work. So, like, this is going to be interesting because at least he's not going to give game spoilers. So I'm like, I'm interested to see how these guns, like, what is to be expected with these guns that when I start playing Bioshock 2. Oh, okay.
I'm afraid I can't begin to work out how this rivet gun works. It's obviously a take on the classic nail gun. We tend to think of Quake, don't we, for that? Or I do. And I suppose I didn't question it at the time. This one has additional moving parts. The railway or the locomotive style rod and wheel on the top. I've just forgotten what they're called.
Oh.
I'm sure train enthusiasts in the comments will remind me. Looks really cool. I'm not really sure how the heck that would help fire rivets or shoot rivets at things. It does sort of feel right for the game, though, to have that weapon in the game and for it to work in the way that it does. Not too much to say about that, except that we have an automatic ejecting magazine or ammunition container, which is actually something we're going to cover on the Royal Armouries channel in the not too distant future, so keep an eye out for that. Sawn-off shotgun, quite a...
That was pretty good,
it's hard
though.
to see in first
Like,
person.
for that camera. I mean, honestly, when I play the game, I like to do the hacking as much as possible because I really like it when the cameras and the turrets are all on my side forever.
Person view, but having seen it from the side, this thing has actually relatively long barrels for a sawn-off. Taking a saw to a firearm is never a good idea. Almost never. Nice to have a sawn-off, though, in the game. It does somehow seem to make sense, and the stylistic changes bring it in line with the look of the game. So if this was just a Mad Max style sawn-off shotgun or even an Old West coach gun with absolutely nothing different about it, it might not fit so well. But we have got some additional pieces on here. I couldn't tell you what they do or how they work. I don't think this has been referenced off a real side-by-side sawn-off. The proportions of everything are weird, sort of exaggerated proportions, really.
Okay.
The sights are, well, A, not really the sort of sights you typically have on a shotgun anyway, and B, 2 rear sights. There's not, a shotgun would typically have just a bead. Sawn-off shotgun would have no sight on the front unless you welded one back on or something because it's been cut down. This has 2 little shallow notches, one at the front, one at the back. Doesn't make any sense for a sight. Probably better than no sight at all, depending on how they're set up, but you're not ideal because you won't be able to align them very efficiently. Now, the ammunition type here, phosphorus buckshot, Dragon's Breath is a real shotgun round. And in fact, there is a Dragon's Breath buckshot round as well that
Oh,
contains
cool.
actual projectiles and doesn't just attempt to set things on fire. I'm not sure that the Dragon's Breath buckshot existed when this game was first made. I could be wrong. It'd be quite entertaining if the game had anticipated something that then happened in real life.
Or if real life was like, that's cool, I'm gonna do it.
Normal Dragon's Breath with the incendiary effect has been around for a lot longer than the game.
Because I know that does happen. Like sometimes, like in like sci-fi or like in games or movies, something will kind of start to like it is put in the game or the movie, and then science is like, I bet I could do that, and then they do.
Take it.
Ow, that was a good one. Those are weird.
Now, this is more like it. So I think the additional bits that were attached to the shotgun when I first saw it are brackets for attaching upgrades. Some sort of Tesla-looking or Nixie tube type, valve type things on the side. I'm not quite sure what they're doing. Different ammunition types, incendiary ammunition, normal buckshot, probably something else. And then what they've done for the capacity upgrades makes sort of more sense than the revolver does. We have independent revolver cylinders of 3 rounds that have been inserted. So the breeches of the barrels have been chopped away. The standing breeches of the action are still there. And then we have revolving cylinders, 1 for each barrel. So we already have revolving shotguns. So it's not a problem to have rotating chambers with cartridges in them that align with the barrel and have the breech at the rear with the firing pin to fire the cartridge. And so you could probably make a version of this that would function. I don't know how it would automatically revolve the cylinders, and I certainly don't know how it would reload. Most plausibly, I suppose you would replace this. You'd have replaceable cylinders somehow, and yeah, it all sort of falls apart when you get into the detail of
I feel like that is the the rallying cry of this particular video. It's like as soon as you start to really think about it, it doesn't work anymore.
But as an upgrade to a fantasy shotgun, I like it.
Ooh, hello.
Obligatory Gatling gun. Nothing wrong with that. One-handed, especially in some sort of 50 caliber cartridge type. This looks to be, again, craft produced. Lots of flat angles, sheet metal, metal plates, metal tubes, and some weird broken off, rusty looking.
I was looking at that. It was like that bear trap thing on the back.
Thing on the top. I haven't got much else to say about that one, to be honest. No obvious way of aiming this thing. There's something on top of the gun, but there's no functional sights that I
spray and pray, baby. That is how I play video games.
See, and in fact, the way it has, you have to hold it. There'd be no obvious way of aiming it. This is sort of an aiming technique as well in real life in certain situations, in certain times in the past. You simply look where your shots are going and adjust accordingly.
Oh my god! I love it. Just look at where you want to aim it. Just look at where you want the bullets to go. And then if they don't go there, fix it.
Game, you have a permanent reticle in the middle of the screen anyway, so that's not really a problem.
Oh, that's cool. I can't wait to play with that.
This is a cool weapon, I think I can safely say. Industrial diesel punky design, as most of the guns in the game are. This isn't a gun though, this is a harpoon or spear gun. It's got some sort of motor for drawing back the mechanism to store up the energy to then release it somehow. Not quite clear how it's working, but it seems to make sense like some of these other weapons. Not sure what the spinning gear or wheel is near the muzzle of this thing, if you can call it a muzzle. The really interesting part is the trap ammo. I see. So the trap spears are not trailing a cable. They are magically projecting one after they've hit their target, which makes a bit less sense, but I'm sure has a valid gameplay reason.
Except for like, okay, those freaking trap arrows and the trap, like, oh my god, like, cause like you shoot it and then it just goes straight back to where you are. At least that's how it always worked for me. So it's like you have to shoot it and then like duck out of the way really fast, which makes actually placing them sometimes very difficult. Another grenade launcher.
and a fairly conventional, if I can use that word for this game, which I feel like I can't, grenade launcher. Distinctive design, very industrial feeling, sounding, awful lot of recoil built in, although a number of the weapons do have perhaps excessive recoil. The revolver is very snappy seeming, but this thing launching essentially a bomb, yeah, it's going to have a decent amount of recoil. They had to develop a special.
Also, sorry, I'll go back and listen to what he has to say there. I just thought it is a gameplay thing. I think it's interesting, like that in Bioshock 2, it seems to tell you when the big bad daddy doesn't have a little sister. I definitely killed at least one without a little sister in the first game because it did not let me know that he didn't have one.
Awful lot of recoil built in, although a number of the weapons do have perhaps excessive recoil. The revolver is very snappy seeming, but this thing launching essentially a bomb, yeah, it's going to have a decent amount of recoil. They had to develop a special type of ammunition to allow an actual shoulder-fired grenade launcher. Prior to that, you were bracing the butt of your rifle with grenade launcher on it into the ground in various ways. Otherwise, the recoil would very likely break your shoulder. So a projectile of that size and mass is, yeah, you need some way of managing the recoil. The game doesn't worry about that. But it does show you that you are chucking something with a significant amount of mass. And indeed explosive potential. Wow. That's it. That's the guns of Bioshock 1 and 2. Hopefully, we'll come back and do Infinite, because that's the only one I've actually played all the way through. But I very much enjoyed taking a look. Very distinctive art style for those games. Really, really good to watch. As always, you can check out what we do here at the Royal Armouries over on our website, our social media accounts. You can also head over to our YouTube channel for more gun nonsense from me. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
All right. Well, that was interesting. And again, I do like to see people who know what they're talking about break down some of the guns that in games that I've actually played. I'm like, it looks like he's done a Half-Life one. That's kind of fun. Maybe I'll watch that at some point. I never actually finished Half-Life. I know some people still want me to go and finish it. I have no idea if that's gonna happen. But yeah, no, like I always like to learn about that kind of thing, and especially if it's something that I'm already interested in, to like just see the breakdown and how it works. I always really liked that regardless. So it's like, movies, I am that person who wants to find the deleted scenes and the special features and the like, how did they do it? And so I really appreciate it when I get to see someone who knows what they're talking about actually break down something cool that I have no prior knowledge of. So if you want to see more stuff like this, make sure you let me know in the comments below. And then if you want to suggest something, you can join the Discord, you can let me know in the comments, or you can become a patron. That is another way to sort of prioritize your commentary a little bit. So if you want to let me know what to watch, those are several ways you can do it. Make sure you give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel as well. We're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. We are not too far away. It does actually seem like this is something that could happen in the next few months. So maybe you can help with that. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you. So thank you again. I will see you in the next one. Until then, cheers.